Hi, thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Kristen Michna, the president of the Woodland District 50 PTA. We're excited to bring the school board candidate forum to the community. The PTA does not endorse any candidates for the upcoming election, but we want to help our voters make informed choices and get to know their school board candidates. I'd like to introduce our moderator for the forum, Pat Arnold.
Good evening, candidates. Before we start opening statements, I would like to do a quick overview of the ground rules. Candidates will each have an opportunity to provide opening comments, answers to each of the questions, and closing remarks. Candidates will have 1 minute for their opening, 2 minutes per question, and 1.5 minutes for their closing. The PTA will be assisting with timekeeping tonight. There will be a green card displayed once a candidate begins speaking. When there is 30 seconds left, a yellow card will be displayed. A red card will appear with 10 seconds left. At this time, candidates should wrap up their responses. Candidates will be muted if they continue once their time is up. As mentioned before, this session is intended to be informative for the members of the community. Candidates should not use their speaking time to provide a rebuttal to another candidate's response or debate. The speaking order was determined beforehand for the statements and the questions. There will be 6 questions presented to the candidates tonight, and we will take a brief break following the third question. At this time, we would like for candidates to begin their opening statements and introduce themselves. Candidates will be called on and unmuted when it is their turn to speak. Starting off tonight with an opening statement is Brianna.
Greetings. My name is Brianna Palvins, and I am running as a writing candidate for a 2-year seat on the Board of Education. As a former math teacher and a mother to 2 Woodland students, I am deeply invested in ensuring that Woodland is the best district it can be. Our parents need to be heard, our teachers and staff need to be heard, our students need to be heard. And all of that needs to be balanced against the resources, mostly financial, that we are bound by. We are living in a stressful time. Pandemic stress, financial stress, social, emotional, mental stress. I believe we need more board members that are living in the trenches of these stresses, that are willing to talk to the members of our district to make sure that we are making decisions that are based on science, questioned fully before making those decisions, and are the best for Woodland.
Thank you, Brianna. Anna, you're next.
I think you need to unmute, Anna.
Oh, sorry about that. Hi, I'm Anna Chang Yan. I'm running for a 4-year term on the Board of Education. Thanks to the PTA for holding this event, to the moderator, and to all the candidates for participating. As long as I've lived in this school district, parents have said to me in conversations that they feel like their voice isn't being heard, and I'd like to change that. Parents are told that we're our children's first teachers. We know their needs best. Our voices matter. I'm a parent of children with disabilities, and for those kids, their needs are even more nuanced. Their success in school is often hard fought. We celebrate milestones that other families take for granted. The stakes are higher. Our voices matter. I've advocated for children and education in both my personal and professional lives. I have the technical skills for this role, but more importantly, I will never forget that education begins at home, that children come to school from different social, economic, and cultural environments, and that the voices of each one of those families matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Oh.
Hi, my name is Joe Derosa. I'm running for a 2-year term. First, I want to thank the PTA for the forum and Pat Arnold, our moderator. It was a tough decision to run again. Being a board member takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of attention, and it can be hard on your family. But that being said, I'm a teacher. I thought 4 years ago that I could make a difference and help, and I want to help again. I want to help us get through the pandemic, and I want to help with what comes next. We are going to be in a place where we can't go back to the way that we used to do things. We can't act like nothing happened. We can't just resume school. We need to be innovative and creative. We need to address the gaps that may have developed in our students' learning, and we need to it's going to be a team effort, and I want to be a part of that team. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Katie, you're next.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Dr. Katie Salyer-Sostak. My first qualification for being here and my motivation for running for a write-in position for the four-year term is as a mother. I have two kids actively enrolled in Woodland. My youngest is a kindergartner in the dual language program, so we're really invested for the long haul. Secondarily, I am also a health and trauma psychologist. So I'm here motivated and interested in doing my part to help with the pandemic and the impact it will have on our families. The impact will be felt for years to come. And so it's my hope that I can offer a voice that will be science-based, trauma-informed, and solutions-focused. I really do believe it will be that team effort. And I'd love to contribute and serve the community to help bring together these voices, bring in the expertise of our administration, our teachers, and science. And I'd love to get somebody to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Corey, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Corey Homer. I am new to the Gurnee area. This is my second year living here. I was appointed to the board in August when there was an opening. I decided to apply for the position knowing that coming into the pandemic, it'd be a rough year. So I saw that there was kind of a need, so I jumped into the deep end right away. I'm running for the four-year term this time around. Hopefully that's now that I've learned to be on the board for a little while, I can bring some of my experience from that time and also, see what it looks like to be in a normal school year. I'm a teacher for 13 years. My wife is a teacher as well. And we're just excited to be part of the board if it's a possibility, and take my years of experience in education and bring it to the table and hopefully bring a new perspective.
Thank you, Corey. Richard, you're next. Richard, you're up with your opening statement.
Richard, you're muted.
Oh, thank you very much. I apologize for the condition that you see me in right now. I was actually driving, so I had to pull over. But no, say that one of the reasons why I'm running for the school board is just because I think it's just important for community members. There were things that happened recently that I felt like I think just needed more input and more clarity between the board and the community. And I felt like that wasn't being done this time around. So I feel like with my intrusion or my candidacy for the board of education, that I think I could open up that dialogue between parents and the board in a little bit more open and transparent manner. That's all I have.
Thank you, Richard. Renee?
Hi, everyone. My name is Renee Amin. Thank you to the PTA. Thank you to the moderator for hosting this event tonight. First of all, I have one child in the Woodland District 50 district. I've been on the board now for about 4 years. I am running for the four-year seat. I'm running to retain my seat on the board. I'm running because I've been on this board for some time. I've seen the great works that we have done. I know what it takes to be on the board. I know that it's not an easy job. I know that although it may look easy, I know what it takes. And I know that the decisions that we make are thoughtful, they're hard. And I just look forward to continuing to do the work and continue to do what we have to do to make things work for us. So that's it.
Thank you, Renee. And Carla, your opening statement, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carla Little. I am running for re-election to the Woodland Board of Education because I believe that each child should have the opportunity for a high quality public education where they can thrive and grow and become their best selves. I'm bringing over 21 years of board experience. I was originally appointed to the board in November of 1999, and then I worked with the community to gather the prerequisite number of signatures to get on the ballot, and was formally elected to the Board of Education in 2001. I am a lifelong learner. I have a bachelor's degree in life sciences with a minor in chemistry, a bachelor's degree in secondary science education, a PhD in molecular biology with a concentration in virology. I bring all of that experience to the board, where I will continue to advocate for our students and for the best in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Okay, we're going to now start with the questions. First question will go to Anna. What qualifications make you a good candidate for the Woodland School Board?
I have, as I said in my opening statement, I have been involved in work surrounding families and children for all of my personal and professional life. I was a journalist covering education for a very long time and have attended many school board meetings and kind of, been able to see how things work and what goes on behind the scenes. In my personal life, I have been involved in volunteering a lot. I was at one point a court-appointed special advocate for children who are victims of abuse and neglect, which is kind of like a guardian ad litem, if you know what that is. And I also have volunteered to teach refugee children in the Chicago area to read. So this is something I'm passionate about. And in my later adult life, when I had my own children, I have twins who have disabilities. So I have been very passionate about advocating for their rights and, and making sure that their needs get met. And this is something that's very important to me. It's, I have had a long-term goal of running for the school board. This is not a spur of the moment decision for me. This is very intentional and, aligns with the values that are important to me. So those are kind of some of my qualifications. I feel like in this role that you really have to be passionate because it's not a paid role and it requires a lot of work, a lot of time and energy. And I definitely bring that passion. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, what qualifications make you a good candidate for the Woodland School Board?
Well, first of all, I think that one of the most important qualifications I have is that I've been on the school board for 4 years and have served through a pandemic. I have experience dealing with, I think, one of the most difficult things that a school board can deal with. And I've had the opportunity to see things from multiple perspectives, to hear from not just our administration and other school board members, but also our teachers, our community members, and have really gotten a chance to come to understand what it means to be an effective school board member through listening to what people have to say and the insights that they can offer. I think that one of the biggest mistakes that a school board member can make is thinking that he or she has all the answers and doesn't need any insight and doesn't need anyone else. We're a team of 7. We provide mission, vision, and goals for the district. But at the end of the day, what I've learned is that for all of what we hope for and for all of what we suggest and for all of what we vote for, it takes the hard work of Dr. Casey and her team. It takes the hard work of our teachers, and it takes the hard work of our community and our staff, and especially our students, to make anything happen. So I think an understanding of what makes a good board member is about the best thing I have to offer. And after 4 years of learning about it, I think I'm ready to do it.
Thank you, Joe. Katie, what qualifications make you a good candidate for the Woodland School Board?
Sure, thank you. I believe being a mom makes me a good candidate, and I do think the passion I have in my kids' education makes me a good candidate. I think we are in a unique circumstance with this pandemic, and the experience of being alongside kids in remote learning and just watching the impact to them in a general sense makes me very passionate to see that the years to come will address anything from the unavoidable learning loss, social and emotional developmental changes and gaps, and any number of other challenges we may face. And I join the idea that I can be humble in knowing that I may be expert in what I'm expert in as a psychologist, as a health and trauma psychologist. And I know that our teachers are expert in what they do. Our administration are expert in what they do. And I believe our parents are expert in their kids and the needs that they have. And so I'm hopeful to work on a board that can work together as a team to unite those voices in a way that can provide the best learning opportunities for everyone. And in the years to come can address those losses, both with our students and families, but also with our teachers. This trauma is impacting them as well. So my hope would be that my qualifications in working on Woodland's strategic planning committee years ago, the dual parent advisory board, I've enjoyed being involved in Woodland and would love to continue offering my service and joining in solution-focused conversations among peers, parents, families, teachers, and administration alike. And I hope that I'm able to offer the time and energy and passion that I bring as that mom, as that psychologist invested in our future, hoping that we can really bring some healing to Woodland and come together in making these great solutions as a team.
Thank you, Katie. Corey, what qualifications make you a good candidate for the Woodland School Board?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier in the opening remarks, I've been teaching for 13 years. In my current position, I'm a high school instructional coach at Lake Forest High School. Before that, I was a middle school science teacher and also an instructional coach in a K district in Crystal Lake. Crystal Lake District 47 is very, very similar to Woodland District. 12 schools, 9 elementary, 3 middle school, very diverse. So I bring years of experience to the table. Included in that, I've worked my way up by earning 3 master's degrees, 2 in instructional technology and 1 in educational leadership. Besides that, I'm an adjunct professor on the side. So really what I'm trying to put the point across is I'm passionate about education. I've taken a lot of opportunities in my career to learn about education and know education. Having been in a few different districts as well, I also have different perspectives of how each district works. And then working alongside the current board and Lori since August, I've learned a lot more about Woodland from the inside of how it's run, how the administrator runs everything and things like that. With the pandemic, this year has been a rough year. There's no question about it. Starting as a board member in August was a rough transition, but I do realize that there's more to being a board member than just getting through the pandemic, even though this will be something that we deal with over the next 4, 8, 12 years, whatever it might look like. The reality is that the day-to-day of a board member looks very, very different in the upcoming years. Right now, a lot of it has to do with the pandemic and e-hybrid and hybrid and getting back to school, but it's going to look a lot different later on. And I'm excited about those challenges and then continuing the hard work and the great work the district has done. And again, bringing my perspective and kind of my years of experience in education to the table to hopefully, listen to the team, be part of the team, but also, bring some ideas if needed.
Thank you, Corey. Richard, what qualifications make you a good candidate for the Woodland School Board?
Thank you very much for the question. Qualifications, I just think, is my life experience. In my current role, I'm in the military full time, and that alone doesn't make one qualified for school or board. But I think my current role in the military, I'm a retention manager. So my job is to talk to soldiers, see what their problems are, to if they're trying to get out, see if there's ways I could assist them and pull them in. I've been a recruiter. So there's been a ton of my experience in the military of constant engagement with individuals or problem solving. So I see those capable skills and background being able to be transferred into the Board of Education. So there's always problems and issues. And so I think with my background, as far as being a team player, putting people together, trying to serve them and help them and assist them, can also be done in the Board of Education type manner. I also want, I believe that there's more than just, this one incident with the coronavirus. But I think there's also goals that I have for our school district in the future that I'd like to be part of that solution.
Thank you, Richard. Renee, what qualifications make you a good candidate for the Woodland School Board?
Thank you for the question. My Zoom keeps going out, so I hope I don't lose you. But I am a veteran. I served in the Navy for 5 years. I hold a Juris Doctorate degree. I am an adjunct professor. I have sat on the board for about 4 years off and on. So I say all of that to say that I know how to be a team player. But in doing all of that, advocacy. My job as a criminal defense attorney allows me to advocate for others. In being an attorney on a daily, I advocate. I advocate for people who can't who don't have a voice for themselves. I advocate for fathers. I advocate for people who are in crisis very often. But decision-making is also something that has to be done. I can make decisions, tough decisions, easy decisions, decisions that most people probably would shudder at, that might not be popular, but decisions that have to be made nonetheless. Right now, we're in a pandemic, but we're not always in a pandemic. Things right now are hard, but there is going to be a time that we're not going to be in this. I've been on the board when we have not been in a pandemic and decisions have had to be made. So I believe all of those skills together allow me to be a good board member. Those characteristics, leadership, advocacy, that's what makes me a good board member.
Thank you, Renee. Carla, what qualifications make you a good candidate for the Woodland School Board?
Okay, thanks for the question. In addition to my degrees, I've service on the board for the last 21 years. During that time period, I've continued to educate myself on the role of the school board. I've always taken an active interest in, participating in whether it's local or statewide or national forums on public education, just continuing to advocate for our kids, whether it's a funding issue or a curriculum issue, always looking for opportunities to grow the district and grow the curriculum. Some of the really good things that I think have come out of it, out of this work, have been the dual language program, the solar panel installations that we're starting now, full day kindergarten. So just always working hard to ensure that our kids have a great opportunity, always working hard to ensure that our taxpayers are satisfied with the dollars that they're spending towards public education in our community. I think that's very important when over 70% of our tax base are parents, or I'm sorry, are families that do not have kids in the district. I myself have educated 4 children in our district, so I know what it takes to have a good, solid public education that propels kids on to high school and on to college. So I think I bring that expertise. I bring the expertise of being a research scientist and understanding, critiquing data, problem solving issues, collaborating with others to bring about decisions that work for the best in the community. So I'm a great listener, and I have a very strong passion for education. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Brianna, what qualifications make you a good candidate for the Woodland School Board?
Thanks, Pat. So first and foremost, my entire life, I have been curious and a seeker of knowledge. My mom wrote my baby book. I started reading at age 2, and I've never stopped. I'm also a questioner. I like to understand things that might not directly affect me, but affect those around me so that I can help them, I can assist them, I can understand what they're going through. As a teacher, as a parent, when I worked in the dean's office of a university, I have so much experience dealing with various groups. So on the board, I'd be dealing with parents, I'd be dealing with teachers, I'd be dealing with staff, I'd be dealing with students. I am able to address each of them, whether mixed company or separate groups. I'm a former math teacher, high school, so I do have that experience of what it is like to be in a school. Knowing that whatever policies and decisions the board makes is directly impacting that environment and the people that are in that every day. As a mom, I know the impacts of remote learning. My son's doing fine, my daughter's not. So I know that as we move forward, as the pandemic hopefully lessens, we're going to be dealing not only with education, social, emotional, we're going to be dealing with those new impacts that we haven't seen before on a wide scale. Finally, I've been diabetic since the age of 2. This has taught me so many things in my life, the strongest of which is that I am tenacious and determined. I am not willing to be, back down when hard things happen. I always follow science because I need to do that to keep myself alive.
Brianna, I'm sorry to cut you off. Thank you.
All right, question number 2 is going to start with Joe. Joe, how do you envision the 2021-2022 school year, and what are the challenges you think our district will face?
Well, first off, I think like everyone here, I really hope that we are able to be past the pandemic in a meaningful way. I know that the impact of the pandemic and maybe some of the components of it that will require us to be flexible and require us to continue to keep safety at the top of our list of priorities might still be there. But I think that it's going to be really, really important that we take a student-centered approach. As I said in my introduction, I do not believe that schools and our school district can go back to all of the students arrive on the first day and we teach as though it were any other year. We're going to need to identify the gaps in learning that our students have developed over this time. We're also going to need to take a look at the social emotional gaps that they've developed over this time. I think there's a reality that for a lot of our students, they haven't made they might not have made a friend in a year. They haven't had a chance to really be together. And giving students and teachers the opportunity to focus on the most important part, which is the relationships and building of those relationships, is going to be really a top priority. It's also going to be really important that we focus on the core skills that every student needs to be successful and redouble our efforts. But I'm very optimistic about it because I think that a lot of our teachers and a lot of our students have developed skills during this time of remote learning that are going to be really useful moving forward, both with technology and also with just basically being asked to be resilient. I think our kids and our teachers have been very resilient during this time, and I certainly hope so. So yeah, I think that those would be the top priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Katie, how do you envision the 2021-2022 school year, and what are the challenges you think your district will face?
Thank you. And a very tough, good answer to follow. I would concur that there will be a lot of, in 21-22, we're going to have to really look very closely and carefully at any number of effects this pandemic is currently having on our students and teachers alike. There will be learning losses, social, emotional, developmental needs, and regressions. There are going to be other systemic issues that have always been there, but now have broader, wider gaps in accessibility to learning that students are encountering right now. Mental health issues that have popped up in families and students. And I think it becomes a really tough and important job to address all those very diverse needs in a very real way. I also would like to believe that our students have developed amazing skills and resilience, our teachers as well. And so I'm hopeful we can work together to come up with a plan that will get us not back to normal, because I think normal has changed, but as close to that scientifically safe, physically safe, but also as close to emotionally safe and secure in-person learning as possible. And I think that is the most ideal way in which kids are currently learning. I understand there may be some exceptions to that, but if at all possible, I'd love to work on a team that can help make solutions that provide the opportunity for kids to have those social emotional development opportunities as well, and adapt expectations for our teachers as well. They're living through this as well and are going out in the front lines and need the resources, support, and teamwork to give them what they need to give our students the best educational opportunity. So I think it's a tough job. I think it'll take some time, but we have to really focus on those gaps and work together to address all we've lost in this last year.
Thank you, Katie. Corey, how do you envision the 2021-2022 school year, and what are the challenges you think your district will face?
Yeah, obviously this has been a tough year. I do want to say one thing we've done a really good job is keeping everyone safe. I hope that we continue that trend, especially for the students and teachers and community. With that being said, safety, social emotional health, and academic growth will have to be some of our main goals. Each child's pandemic experience was different. So it's going to be the job of the district, the teachers, the parents, the community, kind of figure out where everyone is and kind of support them along the way. As Katie was saying, normal, whatever that might look like, it's going to be, I think, the job of the board and the community, everyone to get closer to normal. Again, that could look very different, but what I'd like to see more of is, so let's have more students in the building. Let's have more extracurriculars so we can have more non-academic activities available. And then again, parent participation. I work in the theater department in my school, and just the idea of musicals and plays and those type of things. We figure out a way to do it now, but I think as we move into with the vaccine and everything being available, we'll have more opportunities for those type of situations. The other one we're going to be biggest challenge is financially. This year was a lot in terms of teachers, PPE, cleaning supplies, all of that. That's something that we're going to be living with for the next 10, 20 years. And next year is not going to be any different. So it's looking at financially, what are we spending our money on? What do we have available? What can we do and what can't we do? And again, use the money that we do have to improve the district and make everything better. And then as Joe was saying earlier, the students are going to walk away with new skills. And it's going to be the job of the districts and the students and teachers to find a way to integrate those new skills, especially in terms of technology and online collaboration and the idea of what hybrid learning looks like. The traditional classroom days of the brick and mortar, this is your classroom. It's no longer going to be the same anymore. And I think, we're going to be the job of the board and the district to look at that and see what we can do and walk away with some of the positives.
Thank you, Corey. Richard, how do you envision the 2021-2022 school year, and what are the challenges you think your district will face?
Well, I think we're all going to probably end up saying the same thing. Obviously, safety is going to be a main issue going into the 21-22 school year. That being starting in the fall, which is actually not that far away from us now. So to make sure that we have all the safety measures in place, maybe mimic what other school districts have done currently or in the past to be ready for the fall time frame. Also, legacy issues. So what are the problems that the students, like, I have 2 kids that are in the school district, and I see some issues, maybe some lagging in where they're supposed to be at. So how do we address those? And that'll be my concern, is how we address those issues that occurred between the 2021 school year or even the 1920, because we did lose some time in the springtime. And so how do we get our students back, revved up into where they need to be, and how do we assess those things? Plus, what was brought up before in the past is substitute teachers. So what do we need to do to make sure that for some reason we have a shortage, or we put ourselves in a situation where we have to go to a hybrid mode for some reason, we have the available teachers either to rotate in, rotate out like substitutes or not? Because it seems like, and what I heard is that we are lacking in substitute teachers. That's all I have.
Thank you, Richard. Renee, how do you envision the 2021-2022 school year, and what are the challenges you think your district will face?
I envision the 2021-22 school year to be much different than any year we've had before. When I think about where we were this year, I know we're going to be better because I know that Lori's probably not sleeping at all, trying to devise a plan. And I know it's going to be a much better plan than what we have, because with teachers being vaccinated and coming back, it's going to probably be more in-person learning. I know that we're not going to go back to the way things were. That normal is gone. But I know that we'll have another new normal. And here's what else I know. Our children have developed some skills that are, it's amazing. Now, have we had some children who have fallen behind? Yes. But what I also know is that our teachers have developed some plans to help catch those students up. Even just some of the technological things that they have developed is amazing. And if you all have seen some of our meetings, you'll see some of the things that they've put in place is amazing. Now, that doesn't mean that we have developed the end all be all. And our district is different because we have so many children, but we're gonna get there. So it's gonna look different, but we're gonna be better than we were this year. And every year we're gonna keep getting better. So we're gonna make it work.
Thank you, Renee. Carla, how do you envision the 2021-2022 school year, and what are the challenges you think your district will face?
Well, that is a great question. I don't have a crystal ball, but I will tell you some of the things that we have been working on as a board to help to transition or at least have a smooth transition into the 2021-2022 school year. So one of the things we have been working on with the union is to put a contract in place, but because the teachers, the staff contracts are up this year. So we've taken care of that issue, or in the process of taking care of those issues. We have expanded our summer school programs so that so as many students that want to participate in summer school this year to have the opportunity, based on those concerns of, gaps and possible needs for remediation. We know that, and I say we know, but it's really an assumption that some parents will not want to have their students come back to full-time in-person learning in the fall. So we've taken measures or putting measures in place to see if that's a possibility, that we could have a sort of a strand or a stream of remote learning for those parents that would want that for their child going into the 2021-2022 school year, with the understanding that we want as many kids back in person as possible. And of course, that's going to depend on our CDC, IDPH, and the State Board of Education guidance that we receive. So we are taking measures to plan for the fall, to plan for in-person learning. I agree with some of the other statements that were made, so I won't reiterate those. I think it is going to be a concerted effort of the board, the administrators, the teachers, and the parents and the community to just ensure a smooth transition back to at some type of normalcy, which is, you know, a new normal, so to speak.
Brianna, how do you envision the 2021-2022 school year, and what are the challenges you think your district will face?
How do I envision the school year? As many kids as possible in the classroom as possible, with recommendations to keep them all safe. There's such a social component of school, and that's what's going to be the biggest gap we need to focus on. We need to get kids back with kids, with their teachers, to work on the social learning that happens. We need to look at the CDC, but we also need to look at recommendations from experts outside of, you know, our district, outside of our board, and, you know, have some powwows with other districts. You know, think tanks. You know, not everything is going to work for every district, but maybe an idea that somebody has, we could adapt and use for us. We're going to need a lot of parent input on how the kids are doing, because how kids are at school can be different than how kids are at home. They may be, you know, totally fine at school, but then they come home and they unload about all of the things that have happened that they're overwhelmed by because they haven't had in-person school for a year. I think we're going to need to really rely on guidance counselors, school psychologists, small groups for kids, depending on what they need help with, because it's not all academic. Academics can be taken care of with teachers, study groups, parent-led groups, but interacting with other kids and everything that has happened, that's a big focus for next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. Anna, how do you envision the 2021-2022 school year, and what are the challenges you think your district will face?
Thank you. I think I totally agree with Brianna that we need to have as many kids in school as possible. And I personally feel that we need to be working toward that, you know, quickly. But I think that with this pandemic and the after effects of it, we don't know what we don't know yet. We definitely will need input from as much input as possible from families, because I could not agree with Brianna more that kids, especially because this is something that none of us have ever been through, may seem like everything's okay at school, and everything may definitely not be okay. So to me, the social, emotional, you know, issues that kids are going to be facing, I feel like we don't know what's coming at us. It's going to be big. I run a Facebook group for parents of children with disabilities in the district. And if I had a nickel for every parent who's told me my kid has had regressions, you know, my kid has lost progress, that when you have kids with disabilities, every little bit of progress is so hard fought, that to lose those things and to be looking at, you know, the possibility of having to regain that ground and keep moving forward is very challenging. So, you know, that I think will be a really big piece of the puzzle. And just, I think that the decisions that we make about how to address these issues should be guided by parents and also teachers and staff. We really need to find ways to get input and to listen to that input and use it in our decision making. I think hearing parents' voices is going to be very important to this process, and it's going to help direct what we do and how we come back from this. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. We're going to move on to question 3. Just a reminder, after this round, we're going to take a 5-minute break for everyone to stretch their legs. And we're going to start this round with Katie. Katie, what role does community parent and teacher feedback play in your decision-making?
Thank you. That's a good question. I think it's really valuable, and I think we've already heard from a number of candidates about how important that feedback is. I think assessing and really hearing, I think the first step to that is asking the right questions, seeking out the input from the right groups of people. So I think it's a really important part of the board is to be able to listen, to compile assessments and questionnaires. And I know, I'm so thankful for all the efforts that our district has already made to try to get data from parents and have focus groups I've involved in, all sorts of great efforts. I think that's a really important part especially as we need to assess these changes the pandemic has brought about. We need to hear from those homes, those parents, those teachers, to better understand from the community where we're beginning. And, this is going to be a long-term effort. So in the short term, we really need to begin with those students, hearing from how it's looking, this transition back to school, assessing from all these different camps, whether that's from the teachers, the union, the administration, but certainly really going into the homes, asking parents how these students are doing, asking the community what those needs are, and asking them to be really honest about what the gaps look like, whether that's straightforward academic learning loss, social emotional developmental needs, or any other sorts of gaps that we're going to encounter from this pandemic. The first step has to be seeking out that input from the community so that we can make the best steps forward in providing good solutions to those needs from the community as well.
Thank you, Katie. Corey, what role does community, parent, and teacher feedback play in your decision-making?
Yeah, thinking back to when I was teaching middle school and parent-teacher conferences, I remember having the parents in that room, and that conversation was one of the most important conversations you had, because you really got to learn about the students as a whole, both at home and in the classroom. I think what I'd like to see is that partnership to continue. Even with this remote teaching environment, the teachers in the district have gone above and beyond to keep those strong relationships going. Everything from conversations with the parents with Zoom calls, Google Meets, but also just home visits and stopping by the home to see how the kids are doing. So, really what it comes down to is that I think we need to continue the strong relationship that we have between the community, the parents, and the teachers to serve the students in the building. And again, we've talked about it already. Next year is going to be a tough year. The end of this school year is going to be a tough year. And it's really just kind of keeping that relationship and the conversation going. I think there is almost equal feedback from both of them. I think they both bring a different perspective. The home life and school life look very different. That's just from my experience from being a teacher. So it's really this kind of conversation and working together to learn the student as a whole, and then figure out a game plan to support the individual students, but also the entire student body.
Thank you, Corey. Richard, what role does community, parent, and teacher feedback play in your decision-making?
Thank you. I believe that that feedback between the parent and community is vital. Any school board worth their salt has to be engaged with the community, has to get input from the parents, or you just really can't move forward as an organization. So, it's all to say is that, I think we've seen from a parent's perspective and a community member that I think some of that was missing in the later half of the 19 and 20 school year. And I feel like there was a large subset of community in the school district that felt like that occurred also in the 2021 school year. So I think it would be imperative for me to make sure that communication flow is still there and open, because I feel that a lot of people did not have that this time around. And that's why you see so much interest in the school board this year than others probably in the past. But to me, it's vital. Like I said, in my job in the military, communication, I'm a problem solver. I solve problems individually with soldiers, each one individually. And I think that's how you got to look at this situation with the school board. Each student is different. Each parent household is different. But you had to take that in aggregate and try to move the community and the school board together in harmony. So that's how I see it. It's a hand-in-hand situation between parent and community school board, they have to work together. It's just imperative. That's all.
Thank you, Richard. Renee, what role does community, parent, and teacher feedback play in your decision-making?
Thank you for the question, Pat. So obviously the voice of the community, parents, teachers, is important. We as a district, we value it, so much so that we have forums, we send out surveys, and we try to take into consideration the voice of the community as much as possible. But what we also can't forget is that we are elected officials and that we're leaders. And we have to make tough decisions sometimes. And those decisions are oftentimes based on things that the community may not see. Those decisions are made when we are privy to information that the community may not be privy to. Those decisions are the tough decisions that we have to, as a board, going back and consider things that's not just about what the parents or the teachers may wish. Those are things that we have to also factor in. So while it may feel like we are not considering what the parents or the community may wish, we as leaders and elected officials have to make decisions that's based not on feelings, but on facts. And sometimes that's not popular, but it's what has to be done. Maybe it's based on finances or other reasons. So I just want people to be aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Carla, what role does community, parent, and teacher feedback play in your decision-making?
I would say the feedback from the community, parents, and staff is critical to my decision-making. I think some of the other candidates have already spoken about the board forums and to get feedback and one-on-one conversations with community members, you know, parent surveys, district-wide surveys when we're making decisions. We've spent several different reiterations of our strategic plan, and that was all bringing together the community, the parents, and the staff to do that. And I just want to also point out that our community is, you know, over 70% of our community do not have parent or children in the district. So I think it's important to get their feedback too. I think that when I think of all the decisions that we've made over the years and how we've made those decisions, it's always been making sure that we take, you know, all of the stakeholders, whether the business leaders, the, you know, business owners in the community, the taxpayers that don't have kids in the community, as well as parents, as well as staff, and students in middle school to come together and help to make the, you know, some of the bigger decisions, strategic plan goals in the district. We've taken time out of board meetings to ensure that we get the parent feedback. So I think it's very important because we are here, we've been entrusted as elected officials to serve the community and to be the kind of the stakeholders or the key stakeholders in the educational process. So we just want to make sure, I would say I want to make sure I'm serving the needs of the whole community when I'm making decisions as a board member. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Brianna, what role does community, parent, and teacher feedback play in your decision-making?
Well, thank you for the easiest question of the night so far. A huge role. Yes, I'm an elected official, but that means that I have to listen to the members of the community. I need to know how they're feeling, how they're thinking, what their concerns are. Now, is every decision the board makes going to please everyone? No. But that's the perspective I need to go in with, is what are the big concerns of the people that voted me in? Parents need to be heard so that even if there's a decision that they don't agree with, they know that at least their concerns were brought forth and considered. And so that we as a board can go back and, yes, we understand this, we know you don't like it, but this is why we had to go a different way. I'm one person. We have 5,000 students, plus the parents, plus the staff. I need the feedback to make an informed decision. Done. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. Anna, what role does community, parent, and teacher feedback play in your decision-making?
Thank you. I feel like considering community, parent, and teacher feedback is the job of a board member. The key to that is that the feedback needs to be meaningful. We need to give people a meaningful way to contribute to the discussion. So that means not just sending out surveys or providing and communicating information, but that means asking open-ended questions of our community. How would you like for us to address this? Problem solving with the community and considering solutions that the community might bring to us that the board or the district administration itself may not have thought of. There are technological tools out there to help you do this. There's one called Thought Exchange, where you can put out an open-ended question. I've read through some that the Milburn district did, both regarding their strategic planning and also the back to school issue, surrounding the pandemic. It's amazing because parents had really creative and other community members, teachers, staff, people just in the community had really creative ways of saying things, great ideas about, what they wanted the priorities to be. And so I think that we need to trust that, that the community will bring to us ideas that we won't have all the answers. We may not always have all the answers, and that, sending out a survey where there are, 3 or 4 options to choose from and none of them work for you is not a meaningful way for people to contribute. So I think it needs to be collaborative. Every decision we make, I think, needs to start from a place of data. What is the data? What does our community need? What do our families need? What do our teachers and staff need? And start from there and make our decisions from that data.
Thank you, Anna. Joe, what role does community, parent, and teacher feedback play in your decision-making?
Feedback is essential. I mean, of course. As you were asking the question and some of the candidates were giving their answers, I was making a list of all of the places where I've gotten feedback or some of the places where I've gotten feedback over the past 4 years. I mean, I've had people talk to me out at the baseball field, at GYB, at the sled hill, in my neighborhood, at the dance studio where my kid dances, in the parking lot of the Jewel. I've had people stop me and ask me questions. I've had a person once whisper in my ear in the parking lot, a suggestion and a thanks, for something that we were doing. I also want to add to your question, Pat, and say that in addition to feedback from the community and from parents and from teachers, and of course, teacher feedback is essential because letting us know what works and what they need is really meaningful. And that's the best kind of feedback. But also from Dr. Casey and her team. The feedback that comes directly from Dr. Casey can be absolutely invaluable because it's easy to have an idea, but it isn't always a workable idea. And it isn't always a good fit for the moment. And Dr. Casey and that relationship really gives us the opportunity to have that conversation and find out what's going to work and what might not be doable. So having that kind of open and honest relationship, I think, is really important. There's one last thing that I want to mention before I guess we all take a break, which is that any tough choice is going to split people in terms of the feedback that they give. And we really can't please everyone. And that's just a reality that I came to understand. And it's a really tough reality because I think we all want to do things that people like, but it's important to make tough choices for our kids and for our community. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. When we return, we will start question number 4 with Corey. If everyone could be back on Zoom here and ready to go by 7:40, we would appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we are back. We're going to start question number 4 with Corey. Corey, what are your views on the proposed rules from the Illinois State Board of Education covering culturally responsive teaching and leading standards?
Can you do it one more time, Pat? Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah.
What are your views on the proposed rules from the Illinois State Board of Education covering culturally responsive teaching and leading standards?
I'm not as familiar with those, so that's something I definitely have to research a little bit more. I, again, not have as much knowledge on it. I apologize for that one. You know, one thing that the district does push is being aware of the cultures, being aware of the environment in the building. So I definitely agree if that's what the proposed is you're proposing, we should support it. In terms of inclusion, inclusive classrooms, things like that, that's what I'm supportive of. But again, I don't know the outline as well as I probably should. So I don't want to speak out of turn on that one.
Okay. Thank you, Corey. Richard, what are your views on the proposed rules from the Illinois State Board of Education covering culturally responsive teaching and leading standards?
Well, I don't want to sound like Corey, but I might have to kind of concur in what he said in the beginning. Like, I'm not too familiar, so I don't know if this is cheating, and maybe give me like a little bit of a hint what they were proposing. Pat?
No, I cannot.
Okay, that's fine. So, like I said, I don't want to get too ahead of myself because I don't know what it exactly says in that. But what I do want to address, and I noticed, I guess, because we're in a Zoom environment and then our kids were taking, the classes via Zoom or Google Meets. But what I noticed is the morning announcements, and I do appreciate the during Black History Month that every day,
Okay, Richard, we're going to have
yes.
to keep you to answer the question that was asked.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
I'm just,
we're not
like
going to
I
get
said,
off track here tonight. We're asking everyone just to answer the questions that are being asked.
Right. No, I'm just saying that if that's what the school board is doing, I appreciate it. Because I myself am a minority. I'm a Black, white individual. So I appreciate what I've seen the school doing so far. So I can't really speak to what you that the current issue at hand is. Like I said, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I do appreciate what the school's doing to take its time to reach out to the community as far as like what I've seen in February and what I've noticed myself. And if we could continue to do that and move forward with those types of programs, so the students all have an inclusive appreciation for all the different communities.
Thank you, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
Renee, what are your views on the proposed rules from the Illinois State Board of Education covering culturally responsive teaching and leading standards?
I actually agree with it. It's almost what we have been working on with our inclusivity and diversity training, and what we've been doing with a part of our strategic plan. One of the things is I believe that it's important to teach the whole child. And so when a child comes to school, it's important that we are basically not just teaching them from the book. We are teaching and we're getting to know the whole child, meaning we're learning their culture. We're learning when teachers are teaching, they are learning who that child is. They're learning about not only they're teaching not only about things that's happening from the book, but they're teaching to the whole child. So I believe that this is in line with what we're already doing as a district, as a part of our inclusivity and diversity training. So I think this is a great thing. I think that Woodland is already, well, District 50 is already ahead of the game when it comes down to this. So I am in absolute agreement with it.
Thank you, Renee. Carla, what are your views on the proposed rules from the Illinois State Board of Education covering culturally responsive teaching and leading standards?
Yeah, I do definitely agree with the concept of it. And to Renee's point, we have in our district spent a lot of time and effort in equity, diversity, and inclusivity training. We, whether it's been helping our teachers and staff understand whether it's ethnicity, socioeconomic. The board also has spent time on trying to understand those issues and making sure we're making good decisions based on being sensitive to different ethnicities, cultures, socioeconomic status in the district. We're an ever-changing demographic district. As our enrollment has gone down, our diversity has gone up. So it's important that we're able to develop and refine our curriculum that ensures that every child can learn. And I agree with Renee about ensuring that we're educating the whole child. And that's understanding their cultural background, understanding, some of the things that they face at home and when they come to school. So I agree with the concept of it overall. And I do think our district is doing a great job in this area so far. And I know that we will continue to do better in this area as we learn more. I believe the whole board and the administration and teachers have been committed to this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Brianna, what are your views on the proposed rules from the Illinois State Board of Education covering culturally responsive teaching and leading standards?
So I actually had a community member reach out and ask me this recently. So I was able to do a little bit of research on it. And I haven't read every single line, but I am in support of the essence of the rule. Our teachers need to be culturally aware of themselves, their background, and their students in order to make the best connection possible. Without a connection to the students aren't going to learn as well. The best teaching I ever had was when I was able to connect on a more personal level, where they felt that I understood them. I understood what they were going through. I understood where they were coming from. I knew what some of their hardships at home were. So why wouldn't that make the teachers in our district better than what they already are? Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. Anna, what are your views on the proposed rules from the Illinois State Board of Education covering culturally responsive teaching and leading standards?
Thank you. I do agree with the rules. I agree that inclusivity and diversity is a strength in our district. It's something that our district has done well. And so I agree that reinforcing, those ideals and continuing to grow in that area is a good idea. I would also like to see our district include more disability in that category. My understanding is that the state rule does not address disability. And so that is something that in our strategic plan, when I read through, I find that to be lacking, that in areas of inclusivity and diversity, I find that there's not enough language and there's not enough attention paid to matters regarding disability. So that would be the one caveat, but otherwise I am a supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Joe, what are your views on the proposed rules from the Illinois State Board of Education covering culturally responsive teaching and leading standards?
I'm in favor. In a district like ours, where it's been said before, where the strength of our district is in our diversity, is in our community, and is in the fact that we can bring so many different types of students into the classroom together. It's the curriculum. It's the curriculum behind the curriculum. It's the students having an opportunity to learn and grow from each other in a way that allows them to make relationships and allows them to experience things that students in different districts don't have a chance to do. Of course, our teaching should reflect that, right? It's what we look like in the classroom, and it's who we are. And so for Woodland, it makes perfect sense. I would hope it's what we're doing already. It's what teachers are, already committed to. I think that our school board has done an excellent job. I'm so proud of the work that we've done around equity and inclusivity. And we've done it when it's easy, and we've done it when it's hard. We've made that work a commitment. And it's the kind of commitment that we need to make sure that we as a district make every day, because it's important to our kids and it's important to our families to meet them in this place. So yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you, Joe. Katie, what are your views on the proposed rules from the Illinois State Board of Education covering the culturally responsive teaching and leading standards?
Thank you. I also am in favor. I am aware of these culturally responsive teaching and leading standards, and understand that they also have become a bit politicized, is my understanding. And I ultimately recognize that a lot of these changes they're interested in making and these standards put in place ultimately align very well with our ROAR expectations. We're talking about having teachers become better aware of their own identities, their own ways in which they're involved in these systems and how they impact students and different cultural backgrounds, different racial backgrounds. And I think it also encourages, part of these standards reference specifically leveraging student advocacy. And I think these are all critical thinking skills. These are important efforts that we want to see instilled in the future of our country. We want to see these kids able to understand systems that are at play, recognize even invisible forces that are ongoing and impact them on a day-to-day basis, and then have the voice and choice and ability to advocate for themselves. All of those things sound very much aligned with responsibility, ownership, acceptance, and readiness. Do they understand what's happening around them? Do they have the skills and ability to respond? And then are we helping them to make those steps to respond to the world around them, to make the change, be the change in the world? And I think that's important for our students. And really, it starts with teachers. Teachers, as part of this change in standards, will be better informed themselves about the way in which they navigate these systems, visible and invisible. And I think that only serves us well in our community of diverse families and diverse situations. And so I recognize that there is a politicized debate going on, but I think we're undercutting our teachers and administration in that conversation. They're capable. Our families are capable of instilling values in the home. And so I'm in support of and we'll love to see this increase in awareness and choice to our students.
Thank you, Katie. All right, we're going to start with question number 5 with Richard. Richard, how do you perceive the role of the superintendent versus the role of the board in decision-making for the district?
Thank you. To be honest with you, the whole scope of what the superintendent versus the president of the board has is something I'm still learning and getting accustomed to. So I, make bad statements that divvies up the responsibility incorrectly. All I can say is that relationship is important. And that they have to work together to move the district forward. So other than that, I don't want to, like I said, make a mistake and stay the wrong person's responsibility. So I'll just stop it there.
Thank you, Richard. Renee, how do you perceive the role of the superintendent versus the role of the board in decision-making for the district?
Thank you for that question. So the role of the board and the superintendent is one that we do work together. However, the board is elected and the superintendent is hired by the board. what that means is that the superintendent is basically works for the board. However, the superintendent oversees the daily operations of the district. With that being said, we don't, as the board, know the daily operations of the district. That's mainly Lori and her staff. The way things run on a daily basis and how things get done is basically, in layman's terms, we don't see how the sausage gets made. She makes it. And that's pretty much it. We may make the policies around how she's going to make the sausage, but she does make the sausage. I mean, and that's just in layman's terms how it is. But we are the elected officials. The board is the one who she works for us, but we work in tandem together. Without Lori and her administration, we could not have District 50. District 50 would not run the way it runs. So that's the way we operate in District 50.
Thank you, Renee. Carla, how do you perceive the role of the superintendent versus the role of the board in decision-making for the district?
Right, so I just will kind of reiterate that the board is the elected body of the community responsible for public education and the taxpayers' dollars. We hire the superintendent to do the day-to-day operations. The board sets the policies in the district. The superintendent sets the sort of the rules, procedures of those policies. One of the good things I think we've done in the district, in Woodland District 50, is we've always had, there's 7 elected members of the board, but our superintendent, Dr. Casey, has always been that 8th member. And we always do things together as a group, make decisions as a group. We do professional development of the board with the superintendent and key administrative staff, because we believe in that, that the team is very important in moving the district forward. So I think we've done a really good job in working with the, how we work with the superintendent. Every district may be a little bit different in how they do that, but that's how it's been done with the District 50. I think it's important for board members to understand, especially new board members, that we do set the policies. We don't do the day-to-day operations. So, we advocate for all children, not just our own children. I think some people make a mistake when joining the boards, thinking that it's really about their child or their situation, but really no, it's the global good of the community. And that's where the board, if you ever go to school board trainings, they'll tell you the board has the balcony view and the superintendent has the dance floor view. And that's something for us all to think about as we're, any one of you that get elected, to remember that. So thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Brianna, how do you perceive the role of the superintendent versus the role of the board in decision-making for the district?
So I agree with Renee and Dr. Little in that, on paper, Dr. Casey is the employee of the board, but really it's a two-way street. The board sets policies, but we need the superintendent's feedback and information to know whether or not those policies can actually be enacted in a reasonable way. If it's not going to work on the day-to-day, then the policy the board makes doesn't make sense for the district. So yeah, we're the governing body. We can get all the parent feedback and the community members feedback and teachers feedback, but I see the superintendent as the primary deliverer of information on feasibility of enactment. Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. Anna, How do you perceive the role of the superintendent versus the role of the board in decision-making for the district?
Thank you. Obviously, as others have said, the board hires the superintendent. The board is the elected body. In my experience in school boards that I've covered as a journalist, districts that hired well and were thoughtful about their hiring decision of a superintendent, and then let that superintendent do their job, were the best off. And so, and that is something that the upcoming, when the board that's elected in April will have a superintendent search and hiring process to go through. And I think that that is something that's critical about that relationship, is that it needs to be a sound relationship from the beginning. I also concur with Brianna that we need the superintendent to tell us, are these policies that we're considering feasible, and to get that feedback and to trust them to do the daily work, because board members have jobs, and and it's not our job to run the district on a day-to-day basis. So we have to put a lot of thought into hiring somebody who can do that thoughtfully. We hired very well the last time around, I must say. And so to me, that is what that dynamic should look like, that if we do our homework and hire well, that we will be much better off and be able to make better informed decisions that better serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Joe, how do you perceive the role of the superintendent versus the role of the board in decision-making for the district?
And I'm sure this is true of, well, I think it's probably true of all of the candidates, but when I first decided to run for school board 4 years ago, I had a list of the things that I wanted to do and the things that I wanted to see changed. And I was very focused on my list. I mean, I would be happy to talk about my list. And when I was elected, I set up a meeting with a superintendent at Lake Forest High School, it was the first sentence that he said to me when I asked him, for his advice, for his insight. And he said, the school board is responsible for mission, vision, and goals. And then the conversation went forward. I said, I got my list though. And he said, the school board is responsible for mission, vision, and goals. So, okay, all right. Then I went to my first board training. The school board is responsible for mission, vision, and goals. Okay, all right. So the school board is responsible for mission, vision, and goals. We give direction based on the superintendent's recommendation. That's what we can do, is provide direction. And that direction is really important. I don't mean to minimize the importance of a school board, because that direction, it can be incredibly meaningful. But if the relationship works out right, we end up, and if the school board's really lucky, we end up with somebody like Dr. Casey. Dr. Casey is an extraordinary educational leader. I wrote this part down because I didn't want to mess it up, but she is an extraordinary educational leader. And I think the evidence for this has come this year, for her leadership and her flexibility during the pandemic. I think she's done a remarkable job in a crisis, and that's the mark of a true leader.
Thank you, Joe. Katie, how do you perceive the role of the superintendent versus the role of the board in decision-making for the district?
Yeah, so I would echo a lot of what's already been shared and said, but I think it's a very important partnership, and one that must be built on trust and recognizing who has what job ultimately. I would concur, and I do see that our superintendent, Dr. Casey, has really done an amazing job in a way that I'm sure she never anticipated, never saw coming. And I think ultimately all boards and districts are best served if they can hire a trusted expert, a leader who is able to make sound decisions, who can, similarly be humble to take in feedback and ultimately lead the way. I come into the board hoping to raise my voice, and whether that's a list or just doing my part to represent or offer what contribution I can. I'm also humbled to know that I'm only one person. I in fact hope that we will have different kinds of expertise incorporated. I depend and rely on the fact that this is a group project. You know, we all have the same intent and wish and passion to have healthy, happy, growing, learning students, healthy, happy parents, healthy, happy homes. And so I think the board really looks to enact the things that ultimately the employee, but ultimately the best expert as superintendent can really help to inform that. So I think it's an important relationship built on trust, knowing who has what, you know, and working together in those group projects as we all well remember from our own school days, and doing our part while letting others do their part as well. I think that's an important part of being in a team, is knowing where we begin and end, where our own expertise can begin and end, where we can trust one another. And I'm thankful that we have the superintendent that we have. And I know that's an important job we'll have ahead potentially as a board.
Thank you, Katie. Corey, how do you perceive the role of the superintendent versus the role of the board in the decision-making for the district?
Yeah, I don't want to repeat a lot what everyone said. You guys had made great points. I do see it as the superintendent and the board, they have a common goal. They're obviously looking out for the students, they're looking out for the teachers, looking out for the community members. And that's the biggest thing. There's a partnership, a team effort. Kind of what Carla said earlier, it is, you know, 7 elected officials and 1 hired official, but at the end of the day, it is a team of 8. And that's something I've already seen in my short time on the board, that, you know, even though we're bringing different perspectives to the table, it really is 8 people working together to support the entire community, students, teachers, staff, parents included. Both have to be responsive to the needs of the schools and learning community. I think they each bring a different perspective to the table. The board, you know, they're the voice of the community, they're the voice of the children. While Lori is the day-to-day, she's seeing what's actually happening in the buildings, what the teachers look like, what the students look like, what the curriculum looks like, all of that. Someone mentioned it earlier that, you know, we have full-time jobs and, you know, we have other things going on, but Lori is dedicated and always looking into those things and knowing those things. And that's the perspective she brings to the table, and that's her part of the team. And that's why when we make decisions together, we're making them together. She brings something to the table, a suggestion, where she's based on, you know, working with the team, knowing what's happening on the ground. And as a board, we decide, you know, we either go with it or we don't go with it, but we're listening to the experts, and we're listening to the experts in the building, in the school. And again, I think what it comes down together is we're setting common goals together, working toward the mission and vision, like Joe was saying, but it really is a team effort. And Lori knows, she's the expert, the superintendent's the expert. And as everyone said earlier, it's going to be big shoes to fill later on with that. And I think, you know, it's going to be, you know, it's a team effort that we're all working together and we're interacting with one another to support the entire district.
Thank you, Corey. All right, we're on to our last question of the night, and Renee is going to start us off. After this, we'll have an opportunity for everyone to have closing statements. Here we go, Renee. What do you hope to accomplish or change as a member of the school board?
I hope to accomplish, well, one of the things that I think I have accomplished is we have made some changes to our strategic plan with the diversity and inclusivity. And I hope that we can change transparency as far as with our parents. Even though I believe that we are transparent, I believe we can make some changes, because I do hear parents saying that that basically the way we put out information is not as clear and succinct as they would like. And that I would like to change, because their voices are important. I think that we do the best job we can, but we can always do better when we listen. I would like to make some changes to what's going to be our new normal, because moving forward, we're going to have a new normal. And I want our new normal to be as responsive and effective as it can be for our children and our teachers, our administrative and our staff. So I want to make some changes for our new normal. I want us to have transparency for our parents. And I want our legacy for Woodland to be innovative, creative, and to be the best life in the W we can have.
Thank you, Renee. Carla, what do you hope to accomplish or change as a member of the school board?
Okay, I think we've done a lot over the last 4 years with the present board. And then, the prior years, I've been on the board now for, a number of years. I think some of our pressing issues moving forward are, of course, they're always going to be budgetary issues. We have a potential crisis coming with the Prairie Crossing state authorized charter school funding. We're looking for ways to either increase the funding for Woodland and also for Prairie Crossing in a way that meets the needs of both of those districts, both of our districts. We have the selection of a new superintendent coming up. I think several people have mentioned that. We touched a little bit on the teacher shortage. There is a national and a statewide teacher shortage. We're going to have to make decisions and have a voice on that. Ensuring the equity and inclusion in the community while meeting the needs of our changing demographics. I think that's an important conversation to continue to have and keep building curriculum around that. It's not just a race or an ethnicity issue, it's socioeconomic, it's just our changing demographics. I forget the latest number of families in our district whose English is not the first language, but we're a very diverse district in that regard. We have negotiating new teacher contracts. So I think, I'm always looking and advocating for ways that we can improve our curriculum and improving the learning opportunities for our students and as well as staff development for the teachers. So I think we have to continue to be cutting edge in that regard and just keep moving the district forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Brianna, what do you hope to accomplish or change as a member of the school board?
The biggest thing I hope to accomplish or change is a connection between the community and the board. And that can't happen without good communication with the families, with the parents, with teachers. And it needs to be more of a two-way street. The board needs to be approachable. When Joe was talking about how people approached him in the parking lot and Jewel, I hope that all of the board members that have been on the board have had that happen, because that means that the community members feel comfortable with us. They voted us in, they've put their trust in us to carry out the, insulin pump, to carry out decision-making for the district. So if we aren't approachable, if we're not communicating two ways, then that's a disconnect. So I feel that has happened at some points since I've been in Gurney, and I hope that I can work to improve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. Anna, what do you hope to accomplish or change as a member of the school board?
Thank you. I love this question. I could talk all day. You'll probably have to cut me off at some point. My first goal is to hear the voices of the community. Like I said, there are many ways that we can use technology to hear from people, to provide meaningful opportunities for the community to contribute and to communicate what their wants and needs are. Next, I will advocate for the needs of children with disabilities. In our district, only 6% of children with disabilities meet or exceed state targets in language arts on the Illinois Assessment of Readiness, and only 8% in math. Those numbers are higher in Chicago public schools at 11% for each of those. That's unacceptable. We can do better for those children. I am positive we can do better. And it starts with the basics, ensuring that our kids' IEPs and 504s are implemented. Failing to adhere to those legal documents is disability-based discrimination, and it happens far too often. And I will push to strengthen our policies regarding what happens when those documents aren't followed. My third goal is financial responsibility. Our district's demographics are changing. We have financial challenges related to state funding and Prairie Crossing Charter School. Residents are already burdened with extremely high property taxes. So I believe that we have to live within our means, and we have to use our money in ways that have the biggest impacts for children. And my fourth goal is sustainability. Anytime we're making decisions about capital expenditures, such as the lighting project that's going on now at, I can't remember which school, we should be looking for ways to be more sustainable. And sometimes this means we have to spend a little more upfront, but those decisions will save us money in the future. So I will always be looking for opportunities to both model sustainability and care for our environment, for our children, and to save taxpayers money. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Joe, what do you hope to accomplish or change as a member of the school board?
So I think, first of all, we really have to take a student-centered, research-based, creative approach to what happens next. Our kids need us more than ever, so we have to be better than ever. Second, I think we need to do the things that we already do pretty well, even better. That for me is equity and inclusivity, environmental sustainability, and financial stability. Third, I think we need to commit to negotiating a contract next year that honors the hard work and talent of our teachers and staff within our financial means. And then finally, we need to hire an outstanding educational leader as our next superintendent. The board makes one hire, and it's the superintendent. And when Dr. Casey unfortunately retires, or fortunately, because I'm sure she's looking forward to it, but when she retires, we have to get that hire right. That's an incredibly important decision that we'll make with community and teacher insight and perspective and feedback moving forward. So it's going to be really, really important, that we get these things right. Keep doing what we're already doing well, but also commit to making sure that what we do next year, we do better than ever.
Thank you, Joe. Katie, what do you hope to accomplish or change as a member of the school board?
Yeah, thank you. I think that can be answered probably in two parts, short term and long term. I think we have a very clear short term. There's a pandemic going on, and that's a big focus of where we're at. Our students have been deeply impacted. Our teachers have been deeply impacted. And I think the job we have in the short term looks like assessing the data. What do these learning gaps, these social, emotional, developmental needs look like now? So assessing that data, analyzing that data, and then acting accordingly. I do think we need to really build good relationships, really allow our teachers to do the good work that they do to help heal these students, support our teachers best they can because they have gone through this trauma as well. In the long term, my hope would be to, much like what I've heard some of our other candidates say with some really great answers, I particularly have a hard time following Joe. He's got some great ideas. I really appreciate the effort towards equity and inclusion. I've been observing and watching a lot of great efforts done in strategic planning. I'd love to see that we continue to make efforts to really support the diverse needs of our community. I also would love to see that we continue to build a great quality education with great quality educators, supporting our teachers, making sure that we are a district that is appealing to incoming teachers, that ultimately does support them well. I know that's also going to be an important consideration in this big hire ahead. It will be very hard to imagine, this district without Dr. Casey leading the way. So I see that being an extremely important job of the board. And my hope would be to be involved in a way that helps to find that next leader, and both in that short term, trauma-based way, but also long-term, really innovating great quality education through the relationship, through the trust we have in that next superintendent, and moving forward from there.
Thank you, Katie. Corey, what do you hope to accomplish or change as a member of the school board?
Even though I've been on the board for a short period of time, I just want to be part of the positive impact the district already has. Really just kind of help and continue strengthen the forward thinking, the collaboration, and just the positive district climate that already exists. In terms of things that need changing or updating, whatever it might look like, I think we've learned a lot through this pandemic, good and bad. And as many people mentioned earlier, was transparency and communication. I am proud of the work that Lori and Brooke, the building administrators, teachers have done. I think we've learned that there needs to be more communication, which isn't a problem. And I think it's listening it's getting feedback from the community to figure out, what they want to know, and also having a voice in that conversation, in that communication. I think we've learned, like last month when we changed how we did public statements, at the board meetings, those type of things, that was feedback that we took from the community and we implemented it right away. And I think those are the type of things that the district can continue to do, especially as we navigate this kind of like hybrid in-person format and kind of learn along the way. Others, the budget, obviously financially districts are going to struggle, but spending the money on worthwhile purchases. Joe mentioned it, the environmental impact, the things that we're doing. We should be super, super proud of the solar panel and everything that we're doing in the district. Coming from another school district myself, where we talk about, oh, wouldn't it be great if we put solar panels on our roof? Realistically, it's not going to happen for 10 to 15 years. And the fact that this district right now has done it and is working to do more of it. And then just the idea of lighting plans and LED lighting, like those type of things are huge. And I think we're leading for good example for the community, but also being a good example for other schools around us. The last thing, Katie, you kind of mentioned it earlier, is this retention and really getting highly qualified teachers in the building. Right now, if you look at our salary schedule, it's comparable to other districts, but I think
Corey.
I'm out of time.
Richard, what do you hope to accomplish or change as a member of the school board?
Thank you. In the short term, I think what I'd like to accomplish and change in the very relative short term is actually having a plan in place for the fall semester as early as possible, so parents could start making the decisions on what they want to do based upon the science at the time. I think that was a problem previously. So I just want to have a plan in place, at least so parents, like I said, can make decisions. Secondly, communication. As a parent, I felt like communication and decisions were not as transparent as I would wanted it. So obviously, if I would be put on the board, I would try to make sure that that's something that I do consistently, is to explain the reasons why we come to decisions and not just arbitrarily just make them where the parents and the community don't understand the decisions we made and why we came to that decision, because I know it's a lot of parties are involved, but I think you got to give parents credit or the opportunity to absorb that information that you give so we can understand why the decisions are made the way they are. So like I said, short-term plan is just to make sure that we have a concise plan in place for the fall coming up. And then in the long-term plan is just complete communication, transparency, and outreach with the community and parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. All right, we are going to move to closing statements. Everybody will have a minute and a half, and we are going to get started with Carla.
Well, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the Woodland PTA for hosting the forum. Special shout out to the president, Kristen Michna, and the PTA secretary, Kelly Susiak. Is that right? Susiak? Okay. I wanted to shout them out because I know I had a lot of questions for them and they were very patient in answering my questions. So I appreciate that. And thank you, Pat Arnold, for being the moderator. And then also wanted to thank the fellow board candidates for your participation tonight. I believe as a board, and my being on the board, we've done a lot of good things for the district. Some of it has been talked about tonight, moving to solar energy, being fiscally responsible. We've received financial recognition for 8 of the 10 years of the last 10 years. In spite of the financial problems we're having with Prairie Crossing. I could go on and on about that, but I will say that I'm asking you all to support my candidacy because I believe I'm bringing you the experience and the dedication you need for these future endeavors that we all discussed. And I am out of time. I could go on and on about that. So thank you. Please vote for me. Please go out and vote in the municipal elections on April 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Brianna.
Thank you. I feel that we have answered some great questions tonight, heard some really good answers in order to give the community an opportunity to hear from all of us, but the board can do better. We can't keep doing what we have been, and we're still dealing with the pandemic and we'll be dealing with the after effects for many years to come. And we need to be open to new thoughts and new perspectives to help the students. We need to address the losses that have happened this year with the teachers, the students, the families. So we need some fresh and new perspectives from those who have lived on the parent-student side this year. We need feedback. I need feedback. So I welcome community members, contact me. I hope that the board, should I not be elected, grasps onto that. Facebook, phone, email, reach out so that we know what the community wants. The more connection to our families, the parents, the students, the teachers feel to the board, the better our district is going to be. And when a community is connected to the board, everyone's going to be proud to be a Wildcat. I want to thank the PTA for hosting tonight. I look forward to hopefully being on the board. Please vote for me, BRIANNAPOWVENS. Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. Anna.
Thank you. My focus as a school board member will be on families and children. I will advocate for getting input from a diverse cross-section of families and using that input to guide decision-making. I'll be a voice for children with disabilities, and I'll work towards sustainability, which I believe is a value we can model for our children. And I'll be guided by financial responsibility. As a journalist, my favorite school administrator to interview was an assistant superintendent who always talked about how policies and procedures affected boys and girls. He always used the phrase boys and girls. And that stuck with me because it showed that he understood that a policy is not just a policy written on a piece of paper. It affects a child, a family, a community. A procedure is not just a procedure. It affects a child's opportunities, a family's future, the vitality of a community. Your voice matters. Your schools should reflect your values and both hear and respond to your family's needs. These are my schools too. This is my community too. And I would appreciate your vote, and I'll work hard as a member of your school board. You can read more about my campaign at annachangyan.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. Joe.
Okay. If I get a minute and a half, I'm going to spend it thanking people. So first, I'd like to thank the PTA for putting this together, for this forum, and our moderator, Pat. Thanks for your questions. I want to thank everyone here. It takes a lot of guts to run for public office, and it takes even more guts to do it during a pandemic. I want to thank my fellow board members for the past 4 years, Elizabeth for her thoughtfulness and dedication, Jen for her clarity of vision and willingness to ask tough questions, Renee for her strength and no-nonsense approach, Corey for his willingness to volunteer to join a school board in the middle of a pandemic, David for his sense of humor and commitment, Carla for her clarity of vision and courage. I also want to thank Dr. Casey and her team for their tireless work and flexibility this past year. I want to thank our teachers and staff for their perseverance, creativity in connecting with students. Some of the ways that they've found to do this have been truly moving. And I really appreciate all of their hard work. I want to thank our community for their support and feedback. And finally, I need to thank my family. This has been an amazing time to be an educator and school board member, but it hasn't been an easy time. And it hasn't been easy on them. It hasn't been easy for them, but they've been patient, supportive, insightful, and mostly willing to be around a guy who's pretty distracted with school board stuff sometimes. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Katie.
Thank you very much. I want to begin just by thanking you for this opportunity to come together, to speak, to hear so many different voices, and to hear from the community. Just this very forum itself is a chance to hear a lot about what is important to our community. And that's really, I think, at the heart of the school board itself, is listening, attending to what the concerns and issues are going on in the world, in the community, among our students, among the staff and teachers. So I walk away today better informed already, just knowing that everyone is concerned about the pandemic, the return to as close to normal as possible, getting in school as much as possible, but also all sorts of things: fiscal responsibility, culturally responsive teaching standards, diversity, and that forward thinking towards more innovative quality education, retaining, all these different concerns that really are important as a board member, very humbling walking in to the possibility of joining this team project. I hope that I will get everyone's vote, and do remind you that I am a write-in candidate. So do feel free to bring in some written down piece of paper that says Katie Salyer-Sostak. It's a mouthful. So I do ask for your vote, hoping that I can contribute in my own way to this healing in the community, bringing the voice of a mom, bringing the voice of a health and trauma psychologist, and bringing the voice of someone who just wants to do some good in the world. I think that's what we're all here for. And I hope to have your vote as a write-in. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Corey.
Yeah, I really want to thank you for hosting this event. I know hosting virtual events is a tough one. This was an amazing opportunity just to hear from different candidates. And again, I mean, at the end of the day, I obviously want to be elected, but I know from hearing from everyone that is running for it, it's going to be an amazing board alongside Lori no matter what. So I'm excited if I make it or don't make it, working on the team, whatever it might look like. As a current board member, I understand it's hard work, especially during the pandemic, and I understand it requires dedication. I'm passionate about continuing this, and I want to support the health and the growth of the district in any way I possibly can. I understand it's an elected position, and I do take that responsibility very, very serious. I welcome the opportunity to collaborate with anyone that joins the board and bringing different perspectives to the table. And I'm excited about the opportunity of serving on the Woodland board. And again, I thank you again for hosting this tonight. It was cool hearing different perspectives from different people, and just hearing, how everyone's passionate about the community and passionate about the district. And that's something that we all have in common. So thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Richard.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to the PTA for hosting this event. I want to say thank you to you, Mr. Arnold, for being a moderator. And I want to say thank you to Ms. Ingram for managing our time so we don't go all over the place. So thank you. Listen, I'm not going to say that I have a vast background in education, other than having a college degree, right? But having children and becoming involved in their education has been an eye-opening experience for me. All I can say is I bring life experience to the table. I have 3 pillars that stand up to the board, and that is teamwork, transparency, and an empathetic ear, right? Being able to take what people say and internalize and move forward with that. Also, I want to just end before my ear pod ends. I want to end with the fact that everyone at one point in time was a fresh, brand new candidate, right? With not such a robust background in education. But you can't replace empathy and being a stakeholder in success in District 50 with passion, right? So that's what I'm going to bring to the table, and hopefully I get elected. So thank you very much, and thank you to everybody tonight. That's all.
Thank you, Richard. And finally, Renee.
Hello. So thank you for hosting this forum. Let me just say, I'm a leader. I run a company. I am a team player. I am a decision maker. And while the decisions that I make and the way I say things may not always come across as pretty, it may not always come off as pretty. It's always real and genuine, and it's never malicious. I do the hard work, meaning when it was time to get signatures, I was outside in the cold with my fingers freezing, taking time away from my family, getting those signatures. I didn't wait till the last minute to become a write-in to take the easy road. I did it the right way. But with that being said, I am running not for my child. This is not for my child. This is for the whole community. This is not because I'm upset. I am running to make a difference in the community. Being on the board is about more than being involved because of the pandemic. You have to be involved when we get past the pandemic. I'm asking for your vote, not because we're in this pandemic. Look past the pandemic. Look for the next 4 years. Vote for Renee Amin. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. And thank you to everyone that participated. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Kristen.
Thanks, everyone. This concludes our candidate forum. We have quite a few people to thank. Thanks for the candidates and participating. Thanks to Pat for being our moderator. Thanks to everyone who helped put all of this together. And thanks to Lori for joining us. Good luck to all of you. And election day is Tuesday, April 6th. If you have any questions regarding voting, please contact Lake County Voter Services and have a great night.